us to learn more and to keep going. So thank you for sharing that and telling me where you work. That's going to be helpful. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and then we're going to do it. So we're going to talk a bit about why people visit museums, what are some of the general, we've already started talking about how people learn, and we're going to talk a little bit about information versus interpretation. And we're going to tease that one out a little bit. We'll spend some time on that. And then we're going to go upstairs into the galleries. And we're going to go to some of these areas where you work. We'll work in small groups so you can work with somebody. And we're going to look in those galleries for some themes that we can, again, tease out a little bit more and find, and maybe we can build a new, not maybe necessarily a whole new animation station, but maybe we can build something new for your area that you're working on already. So something new for the mammal cart or the mammoths or Helmkin House even. So we're going to, I don't know where it will go. I don't have any preconceived ideas for anything, but we'll talk about, again, as I was saying, some themes. And I think by knowing more about our learners and our visitors, or users is another word, then we can figure out how we can present something best for them. So we talked already a little bit about how you learn. Why do you think, first, let's back up a little bit to why do you think visitors are coming to the museum? What are they here to do?
Be entertained.
They're curious, they're here to be entertained. Yeah.
It's on their bucket list.
Yep, they heard about it and they want to check it off, definitely.
Familiarize themselves with the area they're visiting.
Okay, to learn, so if they're not from here, to learn more about it.
Or even if they do.
Yeah. They're curious.
I think a lot of the cruise ship people, it's downtown, and particularly if the weather is not that great, it's okay, you go to the Parliament buildings, the museum, the Empress.
Right,
You know, it's just on the,
Sometimes it's about, want
Getting
somewhere
out
to
of the
go, it's not cold or wet. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Butchart Gardens is a top draw, plus the museum, but they end up quite often going to Butchart's first. By the time they finish that, the day's more or less gone. They wander in at 4 o'clock and they haven't got time.
And
it's
they're tired.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they have to pay the full price at 4 o'clock, and they just come in. They're very disappointed sometimes and don't come in or rush around if they do.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And how are these people coming? Do you find you're talking to individuals, to small groups, to families? What do you notice about that? Mix of people?
Usually couples, but not always.
Mhm.
Or families. Yeah.
a lot of school classes come through.
Yeah.
And I always have the wolf out with me, which everybody around that corner sees him and comes over and immediately wants to take a picture with him and hear about him. So,
Yeah.
so it's quite often it's fairly good-sized groups too.
Especially the time that because you're
Yeah.
doing 10 to 12,
Yeah.
which is when
This
majority
one.
of the school groups are coming through, right?
Yeah.
So it sort of
Yeah.
depends on time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you don't see many in the afternoon.
No, that's true.
I
Yes.
got a number that throughout the days that I began to really notice the people that were coming to explore Canada. And particularly young men in their 20s that were going to go hiking or things like that. Other people from England and they'd never been to Canada. A lot of Germans that were trying really hard to understand English. Some were successful, some were not. And I found there was every day that I was doing the cart or the mammoth, people were really coming to see Canada, which was interesting.
Yeah, experience, right? It's they really want to find some kind of experience. Either it's something new, something to help them learn about a new place that they're visiting.
And it's a safer place.
Yeah.
So far.
Yes, and it is a safe place.
So far.
That's an important element. We find when we do our visitor surveys, most people are coming in small groups. So there very few, not the majority, are coming by themselves. So another reason people are coming is to spend time with their family, friends, or that group that they're
Yeah,
with.
in the summer especially, there's families.
Yeah, and they're here because, seems like a good thing to do with the family, or, I think it would be nice to take my nephews there, and it'd be a good experience for them. So sometimes they're coming not for their own edification, but because I think it could help or be useful for someone in their family, and it's just a nice way to spend time together too. Often in those surveys, learning, if it even shows up on the list that they've come here to learn something, if it does show up on their list, it tends to be down near the bottom of the list. So it's not at the top of most people's minds. Now, who's to say subconsciously that they're thinking, oh, it'd be for me, oh, I'd like, it seems like a good thing for my nephews to go there, and I hope maybe they'll learn something new or get excited. But at the top of my mind, I think, I just want to spend some time with my nephews. I think it would be fun to go there. So how do we get them to come even over to our mammal cart or the mammoth or to our station in the gallery when learning isn't really maybe the top thing on their list, and they've got a lot of other things to think about and select.
What is at the top of their list again?
Often it is spending time with family. It seems to be one of the top reasons. So they'll spending time, see something new. They may even want to repeat a past positive experience. They may have been here before and had fun. And think, oh, let's go do that again. Oh, that was fun. I want to see that one more time, or even show you that. So learning is there, but it's not necessarily articulated as the first thing that they want to do.
And it's hard to tease that out because the fun might have been grounded in the learning.
Or seeing something new
Yeah,
is connected to learning, or can be.
right.
A lot of small children want to come back and see the mammoth.
Yes, the kids especially.
If they've
don't
been
they?
before, yeah.
Yeah, want to see that again.
My
So
son
coming to your,
was so upset when we did not have the mammoth. I said, yeah, you can see him through the peephole.
Oh,
He was,
was it hoarded off at
Yeah,
one
yeah,
point?
it was.
and he had brought his new girlfriend to see the mammoth, and he was like 30.
so with the mammal cart or anything like that, I find asking a provocative question, like, would you like to touch a real live dead mammoth? So something to get them over and catch their attention.
Exactly. You need to provoke their interest, right, and relate it to something that they might be important to them. So, how do you know what's important to the visitor?
Partly by the questions they ask.
I know if they're from Germany, they're very interested in the First Nations. Apparently a lot of, not this generation, but a generation probably before them. We have a very good German friend who told me this, he's from Stuttgart. They were turned on to the First Nations by a writer called Karl May. He wrote about more of the prairie sort of First Nation people. And he just turned the whole generation on. And if an older person comes in and I know they want to see the First Nations, I mentioned Karl May, they just beam. They just surprised I know about him. Yeah, it's quite interesting if you look him up, because he never came here until much later, after he'd written all these books that turned on the whole generation to the Western First Nations.
Right.
And prairie bit.
Donnelly, you said that by the questions they ask you?
Yes, because they'll come and they'll ask, well, first off, I say it's always mystic that attracts them. And a lot of kids
Which
want to
is
know
the
if
wolf.
he's real. Oh, yes, sorry, yes, for anybody that doesn't know mystic. And they'll say, well, is he real? And then explain about that. I try to use him a little bit as a teaching thing for younger kids too, because I always say you can pet him, but you stay away from his eyes. And, well, why? And then I explain, well, his are glass, you can't hurt them, but you should never get near the eyes of a live animal. And we talk about that a little bit. Or about crossing streets, because of course he got hit by a car on the highway, so it's like, okay. He wants to remind you, you have to stop and look for things. So that's usually the kids' first question. But the adults, they always want to know how many there are and whether it's safe to sort of go, say, the West Coast Trail or whatever. And so that leads into it. And then with the bears there, and you always point out where the cougar is, because they can't always see it in the forest, even once they've come through it. They'll say, oh, I didn't see that. And, oh, well, is it safe then? Do you ever have them here? I heard in the news you had a cougar in town here. And, oh, yeah, we got them around.
I want to flag that idea of safety, because I think that might be that might come up as a theme or something that we can play with a little bit more when we're talking about something up in the gallery, especially for the Natural History Gallery. Maybe a little harder in Old Town. But I think one thing that people are concerned with or interested about or keen to learn about is about, so how can I be safe in this place, especially if they're visiting a new country or they're going to go camping and et cetera. They want to know a little bit more about what is that bear? Is that really how big it is? Okay, and so maybe there's a theme on safety we can play with just a
That's
little bit
really
later.
interesting. I think that's really important. Yesterday I had a couple of young fellows that were going hiking. Didn't know where, but it was somewhere up north, and we finally figured it was Port Renfrew or somewhere. And so I really insisted that they get an outfitter and listen to a guide, because they had never heard of the cougar. And I look at this cougar, and it's probably the most dangerous animal in BC, and it stalks you, it doesn't attack. And then we talked a little about the grizzly bear, and they had no idea of any of these things. So I really insisted that they talk to a guide before they went off, please.
Yeah,
And that they should register and let someone know where they were.
Yeah, I remember hearing from some Australian visitors, and they had gone camping when they first arrived, and they'd heard about bears and thought in their mind they were like koala bears. So we're quite excited to see one and maybe even have one come by their campsite. And then they did see one and realized very quickly, this is not a koala bear. This was a bad idea, yeah. So one of the, and I'm thinking about what you're saying about the cougar and the bear. One of the things that also is, and I'm going to start making a list, that is helpful is sometimes when we can correct false information or correct a misconception that people had. I tend to remember those types of things.